The courtroom has erupted once again, and this time Justin Baldoni is not holding back. In a shocking twist that no one saw coming, Baldoni has officially slammed Blake Lively's emergency request for a protective order over her upcoming deposition, accusing her legal team of weaponizing procedural tactics to avoid accountability. After weeks of delay, secrecy, and escalating drama, Baldoni's team has filed a scathing rebuttal that's causing serious tremors throughout Hollywood and the media world. What was supposed to be a routine deposition has now exploded into a high-stakes legal war. And it's not just about the testimony anymore, it's about the truth, credibility, and the public's right to know what really happened behind the scenes of the bitter feud between Blake Lively and the team behind Wayfarer. Why does Lively want her deposition shielded so badly? What is she afraid the world will see? And why is Baldoni suddenly so confident, almost defiant, in calling her out so publicly? We're breaking down all the exclusive legal details, the courtroom filings, and the industry reaction to this escalating battle, which now includes subpoenas to content creators, emergency motions, and whispers of massive reputational fallout. This is not just a case about defamation anymore, it's a test of Hollywood power, image control, and the limits of legal protection for the elite. And at the center of it all is a man who says he's done staying silent. For weeks now, the legal world has been waiting for one thing: Blake Lively's sworn deposition. The public pressure has been building, the media coverage has been non-stop, and Justin Baldoni, the man who was once labeled in a now dismissed lawsuit that nearly ruined his reputation, has been demanding answers. Blake Lively was ordered to testify under oath. Her deposition was scheduled as a critical turning point in the defamation case brought against her legal narrative, a case that at its core has been about whether or not a public figure should be allowed to launch serious claims in the media without hard evidence. And just days before she was set to be questioned under penalty of perjury, Lively's legal team dropped a bombshell: an emergency motion requesting a protective order to restrict the scope and possibly even the visibility of her deposition. That filing alone sent shockwaves through the case. Legal experts immediately began weighing in. Why would Blake Lively, an actress known for her polished image and composed public persona, be requesting special protection, especially in a case that she had already escalated publicly? Was this simply a strategic delay tactic, or was there something in her testimony that could potentially be damaging if it went public? The protective order request was vague but significant. It hinted that certain questions might infringe on her personal privacy. It referenced irreparable reputational harm if sensitive details were released. But the question remains, what details? And Justin Baldoni isn't buying it. Within 48 hours of Lively's emergency motion, Justin Baldoni's attorneys fired back with a blistering opposition filing that directly accused Lively of attempting to evade legal responsibility under the guise of privacy. According to the filing, now public record, Baldoni's team argues that the protective order is not about safety, privacy, or fairness. It's about avoiding transparency. Ms. Lively's request for a protective order is a transparent effort to shield herself from lawful discovery obligations. The filing reads, "This is not about privacy, it's about preventing the public from learning the truth." That line alone sparked a frenzy online. Baldoni's team further argued that if Blake Lively was confident in the truthfulness of her previous statements, she should have no issue repeating them under oath. But instead of preparing to testify openly, she's seeking to preemptively restrict the record. The legal team points out that Blake Lively has already made public comments and allowed her team to brief media outlets, while at the same time attempting to hide from the very legal scrutiny she helped trigger. The message is clear: you can't have it both ways. What's especially striking is the tone of the rebuttal. It's not just procedural, it's personal. Baldoni's lawyers state that their client has been subject to months of reputational damage from allegations that are increasingly lacking in evidentiary support. They point to the recent dismissal of Blake's claims against another co-defendant as proof that the core narrative is unraveling. And now, according to Baldoni's team, her efforts to shield her deposition are just the latest move in a pattern of evasive behavior. The reaction across the entertainment industry was swift and sharp. Sources close to several studio executives, speaking off the record, have begun expressing concern over the optics of Blake Lively's protective order request. While it's not uncommon for high-profile individuals to request privacy in legal matters, the timing and context here are raising eyebrows. One PR consultant for a major A-list talent agency told us it's a bad look. You can't be seen trying to silence critics with lawsuits and then refuse to answer basic questions under oath. It sends a message that you're afraid of scrutiny. That quote alone has been reposted across entertainment forums and commentary channels. Others have drawn comparisons to previous legal battles involving celebrities who tried to tightly control discovery only to have the effort backfire spectacularly. In the court of public opinion, some defenders of Blake Lively argue that privacy concerns are valid, especially when media coverage becomes invasive or speculative. But critics counter that the deposition could actually exonerate her if her claims are backed by solid facts. So why try to hide it? That's the question now dominating headlines. And the fallout has extended beyond the courtroom. Major media outlets are reportedly scrambling for access to the deposition transcript should it be made public. Legal journalists are calling this the next potential turning point in the defamation war. What's more, sources say Justin Baldoni is preparing to request sanctions. If Lively continues to delay, that would be a major escalation. If the court sides with Baldoni, Blake Lively could be compelled to testify without protections or even risk serious legal penalties for failure to comply with discovery. So what exactly is Blake Lively asking the court to protect? While the filing itself is partially redacted, insiders familiar with the legal strategy say her legal team is particularly concerned about leaked text messages, emails, and behind-the-scenes communications that might come up during her deposition. Some of these documents reportedly involve exchanges between Blake and third parties, potentially including Ryan Reynolds' studio reps or unnamed PR consultants. The worry, it seems, is that once these messages are entered into the deposition record, they may become public either through court filings or media leaks. Legal analysts speculate that Blake's lawyers are trying to proactively shield those communications from public scrutiny, but Baldoni's team counters that the messages are directly relevant to the credibility of Blake's claims. If her lawsuit contained character allegations, they argue the context of those messages should be fair game. This legal tug-of-war over relevance versus privacy is now the centerpiece of the deposition debate, and the judge's upcoming decision on the protective order could set a major precedent not just for this case, but for how celebrity plaintiffs navigate public lawsuits moving forward. Is the court obligated to protect their public image, or does the truth outweigh PR strategy? That question is looming larger than ever. To truly understand the depth of this unfolding legal clash, we need to rewind the timeline, because Justin Baldoni's team has not only slammed Blake Lively's protective order, they've also laid out a detailed, documented timeline of delays, evasions, and legal dodges they claim are designed to push the deposition further and further out of reach. According to Baldoni's most recent court filing, Blake Lively was first notified about her deposition obligation over 8 weeks ago. That's nearly 2 full months of legal maneuvering. Initially, her legal team agreed to a deposition date, but just days before it was scheduled to take place, they suddenly claimed scheduling conflicts, only to reschedule and then cancel again due to unanticipated complications. Then came the emergency protective order request. To outside observers, these delays might seem minor, but in legal terms, especially in a case as high stakes and public-facing as this, every delay has consequences. Each time a witness avoids testimony, it delays discovery, slows down trial prep, and gives the impression that someone might be dodging accountability. And Baldoni's team isn't just pointing this out, they've laid it out with receipts. Court documents now show email threads, proposed dates, and last-minute cancellations that appear to back up the narrative that Blake's legal team has been repeatedly rescheduling while simultaneously lobbying for greater control over the process. One key moment in the filing references how Blake's team canceled less than 24 hours before one scheduled date without providing a medical or legal excuse. This isn't just about scheduling anymore, it's about control, perception, and power, and Justin Baldoni's lawyers are now asking the judge to compel her to testify by a fixed date with no further delays. So what exactly is Baldoni's team planning to ask during Blake Lively's deposition? What are they hoping to uncover according to new legal filings? Baldoni's legal strategy is built around a few key objectives. 1. Clarifying inconsistencies. They want Lively to explain public statements she made that don't align with internal evidence submitted during the case. That includes comments to media outlets, selective quotes given to journalists, and her initial accusations, which according to Baldoni lack corroborating documentation. 2. Establishing intent. Baldoni's team alleges that Blake acted with actual malice when she allowed her team to circulate defamatory claims. The deposition could clarify whether she knew the information was false or acted with reckless disregard. 3. Third-party communications. They plan to press her on communications with outside parties, including PR firms, nonprofit advisors, and entertainment journalists about the strategy behind the public narrative for contradictory evidence. Perhaps most explosive of all, Baldoni's team claims to possess emails and text messages that directly contradict Blake's public story. They want her on record explaining the context of those messages under oath. And if she refuses to answer, they plan to ask the judge to compel answers or permit the jury to infer adverse intent. In legal strategy terms, this is as aggressive as it gets. Baldoni's team is making it clear they're not just playing defense anymore, they're going on the offensive, and they believe Blake's own deposition could be the linchpin that shifts the case in their favor. As the deposition delay drama has unfolded in court, the ripple effects have reached far beyond the legal arena, deep into the heart of Hollywood. Sources inside major PR firms and entertainment agencies have confirmed that several A-list clients have begun distancing themselves from the controversy. Some have even instructed their teams not to comment on the case publicly, even if asked by reporters. Why? Because the courtroom filings paint a picture of chaos, delay, and potential image manipulation. One Hollywood executive told us the problem isn't even the lawsuit. It's the optics of trying to avoid the deposition. You can spin a lawsuit, but you can't spin silence under oath. Others pointed out the irony that Blake Lively's team continues to leak friendly narratives to the press, while at the same time fighting to shield her from tough questions behind closed doors. And the media isn't taking that lightly already. Several journalists have filed motions requesting access to the deposition transcript. Should it be conducted? Legal transparency advocates argue that once a deposition becomes part of the evidentiary record, it should be available to the public, especially in cases involving public figures and reputational damage. The concern now is whether Blake Lively's team will attempt to seal the transcript entirely, even if she does testify. If that happens, Baldoni's team is reportedly prepared to fight it in court. They believe the public has a right to see what was said, especially if it challenges the narrative that has already been widely distributed. This growing media tension has only amplified scrutiny, and as journalists, creators, and Hollywood insiders grow increasingly impatient with the delay tactics, Lively's once unshakable PR shield may finally be showing cracks. Make no mistake, Blake Lively's legal team is making a high-risk bet. By filing for a protective order, they're banking on the court siding with her need for privacy. But if that strategy backfires and the judge decides the order is unnecessary, Blake could be forced into a full unfiltered deposition under a microscope of public attention. There's also the risk of blowback. Judges tend to take a dim view of what they consider delay tactics, especially when those tactics interfere with timely discovery. And Baldoni's team knows it. In fact, their opposition filing specifically quotes prior case law that penalizes parties for willful obstruction of lawful discovery. If the court finds that Blake's team intentionally delayed without legitimate cause, she could face sanctions, court fines, or even negative evidentiary inferences at trial. That means the court could allow Baldoni's legal team to assume bad intent on Blake's part during key arguments simply because she refused to answer questions when asked. It's a legal gamble with real stakes. Blake Lively isn't just fighting to shield her deposition, she may be risking the credibility of her entire case. Now that the filings are in and the arguments have been laid bare, all eyes turn to the one figure who holds the power to decide the next move: the presiding judge. Legal experts say the judge in this case is now facing a pivotal decision, one that could set the tone not just for this deposition but for how the entire case unfolds. From here on out, on one side, Blake Lively's legal team is pleading for a protective order to limit the scope and visibility of her deposition. They argue that public exposure of her statements could cause irreparable reputational harm, especially if the deposition transcript is leaked or misrepresented. On the other side, Justin Baldoni's attorneys argue that the deposition is not only legally required, but should remain fully accessible to the opposing party and even to the public. If it is entered into the trial record, they believe Lively's motion is nothing more than a shield to avoid accountability. This puts the judge in a challenging position. Does the court protect the privacy of a high-profile celebrity or uphold the principle that truth-seeking in litigation should not be shielded by public image concerns? Legal scholars have weighed in with mixed predictions. Some suggest the judge might offer a partial compromise, allowing certain sensitive personal matters to be shielded, such as names of family members or medical information, but requiring full testimony on the key topics of defamation, intent, and communications with outside parties. Others warn that the court may take a stricter stance, especially given the recent pattern of deposition delays and scheduling games. One retired judge put it bluntly during an interview: the court may interpret this as a stalling tactic, and if they do, they won't be sympathetic. They may compel her to testify fully and swiftly without any restrictions. Whatever the judge decides, the ruling will have consequences. If Blake Lively wins the protective order, she may gain temporary relief, but risk appearing evasive in the public eye. If she loses, she could be exposed to harsh scrutiny and a barrage of direct, uncomfortable questions under oath. Either way, the pressure is mounting, and there's no turning back. Across legal circles, the protective order request has become a hot topic. Law professors, litigation analysts, and retired attorneys have started speaking out about what this could mean not just for this case, but for celebrity litigation in general. One of the key concerns raised is the weaponization of privacy claims in public lawsuits. A well-known media law expert stated there's a growing trend where high-profile plaintiffs use privacy as both sword and shield. They go public with broad accusations but hide behind confidentiality when challenged. That pattern appears to be playing out here, and it's drawing criticism. A viral thread from a legal blogger explained how Lively's team could be seen as trying to control the narrative, not the facts. The blog argued that if someone sues for reputational harm, they should expect their own conduct and communications to be open for examination. On the other hand, some legal analysts are more sympathetic. They argue that in the age of social media and headline-driven coverage, any testimony from a public figure is at risk of being misinterpreted, clipped out of context, and weaponized online. From that perspective, requesting a protective order is not cowardly, it's cautious. Still, the tide of public opinion seems to be turning. The consistent delays, the sealed filings, the emergency hearings, all of it gives the appearance that Lively is reluctant to face open scrutiny, and Baldoni's team is seizing that narrative. Their filings paint her legal moves as tactical evasion and an attempt to litigate through the press while refusing to litigate in court. It's a damning frame, and with every new filing, the legal community is watching more closely, wondering whether the court will allow one of Hollywood's most visible figures to operate under a different set of rules. There's another possibility on the horizon, and it's one that Baldoni's legal team is quietly preparing for. What if Blake Lively refuses to testify legally? She can't just walk away. The deposition was ordered by the court as part of the discovery process, and she's a key party in the ongoing case. But in rare situations, a witness can refuse to testify, usually invoking constitutional protections or citing psychological harm. Would Blake go that far? Probably not. But the fact that her team is pushing for protection so hard has sparked speculation that she may be deeply worried about what her answers under oath could reveal. So what happens if she refuses? Baldoni's attorneys could file a motion to compel, which would require her to sit for the deposition. If she continues to resist, the court could sanction her legally. Sanctions range from fines to even a default judgment, though that's a rare extreme. More likely, the court would allow the jury, if the case goes to trial, to infer negative intent, a legal concept where the refusal to testify can be interpreted as evidence of wrongdoing or lack of credibility, and if that happens, it could deal a fatal blow to Lively's case. Because remember, the defamation lawsuit hinges not only on what was said, but whether it was said with truth and fairness or reckless disregard. The deposition is Baldoni's opportunity to test that standard under oath. If Lively dodges it, even legally, the public may decide she's hiding something. And in the world of celebrity litigation, public perception is everything. After weeks of filings, rebuttals, public scrutiny, and mounting pressure, one thing has become crystal clear: this legal war between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively is no longer just about depositions, protective orders, or courtroom procedures. It has evolved into a powerful symbol of how the lines between celebrity image control, accountability, and the justice system are becoming increasingly blurred. Blake Lively's emergency request for a protective order over her deposition has sparked far more than a legal debate. It's triggered a public reckoning. When a public figure uses their platform to make serious accusations, the expectation is transparency, not secrecy. When legal action is taken against someone's reputation, especially in a case that's already captured the attention of the media and the public, it becomes a matter of trust, a matter of whether that person is willing to stand behind their words under oath without hiding behind redactions or protective barriers. And that's exactly what Justin Baldoni is now demanding. Baldoni's bold strategic response to the protective order was more than just a legal motion. It was a declaration that he will no longer tolerate selective silence, double standards, or attempts to shield one party from the very discovery process they helped initiate. He's saying what many in the public have started to believe: if Blake Lively's allegations were truly made in good faith, she should have no problem answering questions in a transparent legal forum. But instead of straightforward answers, we've seen missed deadlines, unexplained delays, and now a sudden emergency motion for a protective order, raising the question everyone is now asking: what is Blake Lively trying to hide? The more her legal team fights to shield her deposition, the more the court of public opinion starts to shift. It's no longer about what was said in the initial filings, it's about what she's not saying now, and what her silence is beginning to suggest. Even those who once supported her now appear uncertain. Public trust is fragile in Hollywood. One poorly timed motion, one redacted document, one evasive court filing, and the narrative flips. What once looked like victimhood can suddenly look like strategic image preservation. And in a world where the truth eventually leaks, whether through court transcripts or press leaks, attempts to delay only prolong the inevitable. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni's confidence is growing. After being unfairly painted in the early stages of this feud, Baldoni is now seizing the opportunity to reclaim his voice. His legal filings reflect a clear shift from cautious defense to assertive offense. He's not just denying the claims anymore, he's exposing the contradictions, documenting the delays, and asking the court to hold Blake Lively accountable, and his message is resonating. Creators, media outlets, and everyday viewers alike are beginning to echo his sentiment. If you take a case to the public, you don't get to pick and choose when you're held accountable. You don't get to weaponize the press, then hide behind sealed transcripts when the heat turns up. You don't get to make serious accusations and then walk away when asked for proof. The judge now has a crucial decision to make. Will the court side with Lively's request for special protections based on vague claims of reputational harm? Or will it stand firm on the principle that no one, no matter how famous, is above the rules of discovery and legal transparency? That decision could shape the rest of this case. It could determine not only whether Blake Lively testifies, but whether that testimony is accessible, relevant, and usable in court. It could determine whether Baldoni's team gains the leverage they've been building toward, or whether the protective veil remains in place. One thing, however, is certain: the public is watching. And in today's media landscape where nothing stays hidden forever, any attempt to conceal the truth becomes part of the story itself. Any move to dodge the deposition doesn't just raise eyebrows, it raises suspicion. Hollywood, meanwhile, is learning a new lesson from this drama. The era of total image control is coming to an end. The days when public figures could dictate the narrative without challenge are over. Now legal records speak louder than publicists, transcripts matter more than Instagram posts, and the truth, once it starts to emerge, has a way of breaking through even the most carefully constructed PR walls. For Blake Lively, this could be a turning point. If she steps forward, answers under oath, and embraces transparency, she might still recover credibility even if some of her past claims are questioned. But if she continues down the path of avoidance and legal deflection, the consequences could be lasting, not just in court but in the court of public opinion. For Justin Baldoni, the momentum has shifted. No longer the silent defendant, he is now the one pushing for clarity, for testimony, and for justice. Whether or not he wins in court, he has already succeeded in exposing the cracks in the story. He's already shifted the narrative and perhaps the outcome. This case is far from over. But one thing is certain: the truth is coming, and Blake Lively must now decide. Will she help bring it forward or continue trying to hide from it? The next few weeks will decide everything.